So a few weeks ago, while I was still kind of obsessing over last year's attempted insurrection at the Capitol, I saw a post on Tumblr that led me to looking up Lindsay Ellis's Twitter, where she said she was leaving YouTube. And underneath that was another tweet telling, I think, a saxophone player to remove a collaboration he did with someone. I forgot. Anyways, I left this comment on the Tumblr post. See, I mostly stopped watching YouTube a while ago after a YouTuber I followed on Tumblr posted negatively about a topic really personal to me, and then got into a fight with my sibling. These are posts I'm not going to dig up to screenshot, both because I've changed her mind about pansexuality since then, and because taking screenshots would mean scrolling past my sibling's erotica, which no. And it really wasn't even about either of them. All this happened because she said something that set off a bear trap in my head. And that's how I've started referring to triggers since Tumblr banned the word. Anyways, my reaction got aforementioned siblings stuck in their own bear trap. The YouTuber wasn't the one who created the bear trap. Exclusionists were, but, you know. All of this is a really roundabout way of saying that I've never listened to the saxophone player whose name I forgot, or Jill Scott, until the rage came pouring in and all I could hear was the snap, snap, snap of multiple bear traps being set off at once. I said in my video about voting that I don't talk to the people I used to do Reader and Virgin with. The reason for that is... Okay, let's rewind. So we didn't start off doing Reader and Virgin. We all met in a meeting about something really personal that I'm not going to talk about unless it's one-on-one and I can see your face. The only thing about it that's relevant is the radio show about female sexuality that we started was originally a therapy project. So one day while we're recording about Star Wars branded sex toys, because the new trilogy had just been announced, I mentioned that I'd never seen any of the movies. So we did a radio skit playing up my confusion over Star Trek, Star Wars, and Tony Stark to bait fanboys into calling in with horrible comments that we would then roast them for. And these particular men were misogynist and really easy to make fun of. This is a video about transphobia, so you can probably guess where I'm going with it. These girls almost all became TERFs, and I had started to follow them. And it wasn't personal growth that led me to cutting off all contact. It was my sibling, the sibling who gets so upset when I get upset that they start yelling at strangers. They'd started dating a girl like the ones I'd ridiculed just days or maybe hours earlier. And they came out to me and said that they don't want me to refer to them as my sister anymore. The reason I didn't name the radio show, and the reason I'm not going to name any of the girls that I did it with, is because there's a non-zero chance that somewhere on the internet are audio clips of me saying the T slur and the S slur, and I want to make it as hard as possible to find them. I don't mean that as a challenge, because first of all, I don't want people to be exposed to transphobic slurs. Second, I'm ashamed of what I said. I'm ashamed of the manner in which I said them. I'm ashamed of the hundreds of other things that I've said that weren't strictly slurs, but definitely aren't nice either. And third, if this clip goes around, then people aren't going to hear me from back then. They're going to hear me as I am in the present, because they hear it in the present and I currently exist in this state. I know, by virtue of having been a queer Asian woman all my life, that people who won't forgive white people for what I did aren't likely to forgive my transgressions no matter what I do afterwards. So, there are going to be people who hear my voice and hear all the transphobic shit I used to say. I can't undo that. I wish I could. I can say that I support trans people now, but this is just words. You know, I see people who hate me, and honestly, I think about the people who heard me on the radio. Ellis talked about the Isabel Falls story, and I think about bear traps again. The reason N.K. Jemisin and Neon Yang reacted the way they did wasn't actually because of Fall's story. It was because transphobes had turned the title of that story into a bear trap. So they weren't reacting to a story, they were reacting to transphobes who'd said the title before in different contexts. And their reaction and the flood of similar reactions put bear traps in Fall's head, making her womanhood a trigger for her. I put bear traps in some people's heads when I was a young adult, and judging from these reactions, I set them off. This doesn't mean I approve of this kind of reaction, it just means I understand where it's coming from. I should have been better. There were people at that age I was who were better. I can't undo anything. I can just move forward. I don't know who Jill Scott is. Somebody linked the video and I watched like 5 seconds of it before realizing that it was upsetting me, so I backspaced out and I still haven't seen it. Not because of any content in the video, but because this whole topic is a bear trap for me now. I don't know what he believes. I'm not going to ask him because I don't have the kind of relationship with him where I have his contact information, and there's a reason I stopped talking to my college friends. You know, I see messages like this and I think, I hope that the fact these things are deleted, that they can only be found in archives, means he's changed. I haven't read it. It just feels weird to read things people have deleted, the same way it feels weird to screenshot things. And I know not everybody thinks the same way about it, but I rarely delete stuff I post because I don't believe in hiding my past. Even the things I look back on and hate, because I know I wouldn't be who I am and who I will be in the future if that person who made them hadn't been who she is. If you're here to see if I'm still transphobic, the answer is, of course I'm still transphobic. There's no point where I live in a transphobic society and stop being transphobic. I don't get to rest on my laurels because I walked out on a radio show when I was, 20 years old. Honestly, I still look back at the early days of that radio show with fondness. I think back to our jokes about extremely long plugs, our threats to set the curtains on fire, imitations of the sound designer's voice, and I want to smile. I wouldn't want to go back there because the person I am now would hate it, but the person I was then enjoyed it all immensely, and it would be a lie to pretend like who she was didn't lead to me becoming who I am now and who I'll be in the future. My memories with those girls are inextricable from the college experience and the therapy I had to recover from. Well, you've probably guessed what it is by now, but I still don't want to talk about it. I don't think there's much value in hating who I used to be. That just puts the focus on being negative towards myself when it should really be about being positive towards trans people. The thing about systemic problems is they require systemic solutions, and I'm just one person. And yeah, societies are just groups of individuals, but now, especially while I'm isolating, I can only act on an individual level. And this isn't an apology video. Like, the day I broadcast a public apology is the day I start jerking off in public. So check out my OnlyFans. The truth is, I've already forgiven myself because the only trans person whose opinion fundamentally matters to me has already forgiven me. And any apology I give when I can't see the face of the person I'm apologizing to would be insincere. It's a funny story. The very next post I made that day, after I said I'm not familiar with YouTube, was asking for help with a YouTube video. It was the one about the January 6th insurrection, and here I am a week later making content for the platform I still know nothing about, this time with more rambling. And the point of all of this, of the last 12 or so minutes, is so the people whose bear traps I set off will see it. I blocked all of them on Tumblr because I don't like the way it was said, and I block very liberally. I'm not going to unblock them because I have like over 1,000 people blocked, I think, and I'm just not gonna scroll past all those names to find you. But I know that you watch YouTube, I hope you find some measure of peace from the people who put the trap there in the first place, especially if it's me, because there's a non-zero chance that it is. I promise to keep trying to catch my transphobic thoughts before they become actions. I won't always succeed, but I will try. And to my sibling, this is not a concession. The next time we meet, I still fully intend to slap you for the thing.